We know that you folks love the advanced analytics, you fantasy geeks out there, and we are trying to please. We aim to please here. So we are joined by Nick Shook, excited to have him on the show, who is doing some next-gen stats over at NFL.com, writing for Around the NFL as well. And Nick, there is a brand new thing out there, the new hotness in these analytics streets. Rush yards over expected, and you wrote a piece at NFL.com about it. You had the top 10 running backs who sort of excelled in that category. But one, thanks for stopping in and hanging out with us. Two, just explain what rush yards over expected is, please.
So essentially, when we think about rush yards over expectation, we have to think about everybody else in the field, right? Because the running back is not going to outrun 11 guys on his own. So you have when the ball is handed off to the running back, we are taking the position, the speed, the movement, everything of all the other players on the field using that tracking data to figure out, well, how many yards should this running back ideally gain on this carry? And then we apply that on a per carry basis over the entire season for every running back. And then we take their actual yards per carry, compare it to their rush yards over or under expectation. That's basically, we get that number by that expectation that we found initially. And then we get their over or under expectation, which is really how we figure out how effective a running back is. And so we've kind of built this top 10, and some of the guys at the top of this list shouldn't be too surprising. Derrick Henry's up there at number 1. Nick Chubb is up there at number 2. But then there's a rookie from last year in Josh Jacobs from the Raiders, who I was pretty surprised to see up there. Now, if you talk to John Gruden, he'll tell you that he thinks that Josh Jacobs should have been the offensive rookie of the year, but he was very productive, and those numbers showed it, even when some of your traditional metrics might not show it. You know, if you look at a rushing yards total, his season total was good, no doubt. But if you then take it the next step into what we have now to work with, you can really understand, based on the circumstances surrounding these guys, just how effective a guy like Josh Jacobs was, which is why I think he's going to be a huge pickup in fantasy this year. And if we rely on these rush yards over expectation per attempt, this mark of 0.81, as you see on your screen there, I mean, I think that's going to really help separate some of these running backs from their yardage totals and, well, oh, he's just a product of his offense or whatever else you might think it would be, to really understanding that, no, this guy is outperforming the circumstances around him on a consistent basis, which makes him a strong pick for your fantasy team.
I mean, so you sort of talk about what Jacobs did and the guys around him. I mean, it feels like this is something that we can use to kind of be a predictive tool, because it's nice to see it one year. The thing everybody wants to know is can he do it again? And so you're saying this can be sort of a predictive tool year over year to sort of help separate guys, right?
Yeah, definitely. Number 2 on this list was Nick Chubb this past season. His mark from the year prior was way better. It was better than anybody who we've ever tracked with these numbers by a long shot. Derrick Henry was number 1 this year at 1.05. Nick Chubb last year was near 1.4. If you need to really compare how much of a difference that is, Derrick Henry was the only guy over 1 this year. Nick Chubb was better than him by nearly 0.3. I mean, it's that much better. So I think that we can use this to kind of, like you said, predict from year to year how effective a running back might be based on, and some of these circumstances changes, we know. Sometimes you have personnel changes, you have offensive line changes, you have offensive coordinator changes. You had that all in Cleveland last year, and yet Nick Chubb was still very effective. So it really does help illustrate how good a running back is, even with everything changing around him.
I know you do a lot of stuff around offensive lines. Would you classify this more as a running back stat or an offensive line stat, or maybe somewhere kind of in the middle?
So initially when I looked at these, I thought, wow, this might be the first time that we have something to really judge how effective this offensive line is performing. But then when we dug deeper into the numbers, you had teams like Arizona showing up pretty high up on this list. And I'm thinking, well, that's not an offensive line that I would initially think of when I'm trying to name a top 5 offensive lines. So what also really factors into it is scheme. And we all think about how Cliff Kingsbury loves to rely on the spread. He trotted out the 4 wide receiver set more than anybody else in the league last year by a wide margin. And we all know what that does. That spreads the field out. It allows for your running back to get more room to run because there's less defenders in the box. There's less guys for his offensive linemen to block. So it helps illustrate how an offensive line is performing, no doubt, but it also really shows how well they fit within the scheme. And then if you combine all of that together, it sets that benchmark that we then judge the running back by. And, guys like Kenyon Drake last year were really good in those situations. So I think it's a tool that we can use to evaluate offensive lines and maybe separate the drawn out debate of, well, the running back wasn't good because his offensive line was bad, when that might not be the case. We can finally kind of point to, well, you know what, maybe it was the running back, because we did have some cases there where guys were really not good, even when their offensive line and their scheme were doing pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned in your piece, like Devontae Freeman, I know was pretty bad. I think Todd Gurley was pretty bad. Were there guys that you were maybe expecting to see in the top 10 that didn't make it there, kind of caught your eye in that respect?
One big one that I've gotten a lot of responses for, and Cowboys fans have come at me pretty angrily thinking that I'm responsible for the data, is Ezekiel Elliott. Yeah, exactly, right? That's what it always is. It's your fault. You're in charge of the numbers. You produce them. It's all
Exactly.
on you. Zeke was a running back that I expected to see up there. But then if you think again, we've talked about the Cowboys offensive line and how well it has blocked for years. And they had a higher expectation, and his rushing yards over expectation just wasn't enough of a difference to really land him on that list. And, some people are going to say, well, he's a top 5 running back. And Zeke will get on Twitter and tell you that he's a top 5 running back, that he's one of the best in the league. And that's not wrong. It's just that he's dealing with a better set of circumstances around him than some of the other guys. And that's what we were really judging these individual running backs on, is how well are you achieving above expectation? How much are you doing for your team beyond what's already built for you? And Zeke's doing a good job. It's just, he's kind of got the deck stacked in his favor a little bit.
Cynthia, you are our resident predictive analytics person here, and I know that you're always trying to find more data to kind of help you round out. I would think this has got to be a nice tool to have in the toolbox when it comes to doing projections now.
Totally. For me, it's like woulda, coulda, shoulda, right? Like, should they have done a good job like Zeke? The Zeke example is totally perfect, actually, right? Like, you're in a great situation, so it's going to be hard to exceed above that situation, harder at least, or you're in a crappy situation and you did a really good job or you didn't get. So the relative difference, I think that's where people need to like look at the difference, because then you can distill, is it chicken or egg? Is it O-line or is it the running back or is it both? And then as we get years and years of this information and we get a kind of an established benchmark, we're going to find this like awesome number that's going to be like, anyone who's over a 0.7, they should be a top 10 fantasy running back, something like that. So we'll be able to get some really cool insights. The more like, this is a brand new metric. And so, we can only go back in the data as far as we have the data to go back in. So each year, each snap, every time it goes through is super exciting to see, who's going to be kind of good. And then, by the way, we're going to be able to do like a cascade of other different things, right? Like to be able to predict the next Josh Jacobs in terms of rookies, because at least at the running back position, there is a shorter learning curve than other positions. So it's a really cool tool to be able to have an edge on your friends. And also just watching the game, you can be like, yeah, that's that Nick Chubb, he has the best historical yards over expected runs. And who doesn't want to talk about that at the bar when we finally go back to bars?
Yeah, just like when we go back to bars, it'll be a great bar bet that you could possibly
Exactly.
win.
It's going to be so much fun.
Nick, I know you were here with us for a while. You took a sabbatical from NFL media. Now you're back, which we're certainly glad to have you back. For folks who don't know, where can they find your work?
You can go to NFL.com/Shook, and you can follow me on Twitter at the Nick Shook. And it's only because the person who has at Nick Shook won't give me the handle. I've been trying for like 9 years and I can't get
No
it. So
way.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm blocked at this point, so it's a lost cause.
You're blocked. That's amazing. You know what the best part is? Your chair behind you looks like you have the most massive popped collar. It's fantastic.
I probably should have wore a different colored shirt than black.
No,
Here's my collar.
I think it's great. I like it. It's great. It's like it gives you popping collars. We're good.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Like the 80s all over again. It's fantastic. So yeah, they follow him on Twitter at the Nick Shook, except no substitutes. Nick, appreciate you stopping by. I look forward to reading more of your stuff, man. Take care.
It's great stuff.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Hey, always. Thanks, Cynthia.